So we'll start in that comfortable seated position. And truly, when I say it, I really mean it. You could be seated anywhere for this. You could have your legs straight. You could be kneeling. Whatever's the most comfortable is where I want you to be. And we'll start by resting our hands on our lap. Eyes can be open or closed. And this class is a harvest, fall, autumn themed class. So, a lot of what we'll be doing today will be things that are very grounding and anchoring to help us navigate this season of change a little more smoothly. So, let's take about 5 breaths or so just to check in with how you're feeling. And as you're breathing and checking in with yourself, if you'd like to, this is optional. You can give yourself a number between 1 and 10, 10 being high, 1 being low, and maybe it's actually even 0. But it's called a subjective unit of distress. So if you were to put like your stress level on that scale from 0 to 10, what number in this moment would you give it? And again, it's optional to assign a number to it. But we'll take a couple more breaths in case you would like to do that. And then we'll start a practice of tapping, which hopefully is going to bring that stress level down a notch or two. So, the way that we'll start is to tap here at the side of your hand. So, somewhere between the wrist bone and the bone at the pinky, you'll just tap. So, you could tap either hand at any time. And as we move through the other tapping points, remember you can do either hand or both hands at any point that you'd like. But we start here, and then this is also where we end. This is a tapping point that's said to shift our energy the most efficiently. So if you ever felt like you needed to tap, but you didn't have time or you don't remember the steps, you could always just tap this spot. So breathing in and breathing out. There's nothing else you need to do, just tap and breathe. The acupressure point will do the rest. And then we'll tap at the very top of the head. So again, you can tap with either hand. You can switch your hands one and if they get tired, but you're tapping at the very center of your skull. If there were a line kind of from your spinal cord up through the crown of the head, that's the spot we're tapping. This spot is said to help regulate the entire system. It's a very integrating spot. And then we'll tap at the inner eyebrow. So I like to use both hands, but you can use one. And you want to think about tapping on the actual hair of the eyebrows, right at that inner part, right at the forehead at the very center. Just breathing and tapping. Then we'll tap at the outer eyes. So you're actually on the bone of the outer eyes, tapping gently there. So not the temple so much, but literally on that bone around the eyes. Very gentle here. You don't need much pressure. As long as you're feeling it, then it's enough pressure. And then on that same bone, but right underneath the eye. So if you imagine where your temple or your pupil is, you want to tap there. So again, this is a spot you want to be gentle. And then our upper lip. So I kind of use the side of my index finger, but you could do it however you want to tap at the upper lip. And you want to imagine or visualize that you're tapping where your upper teeth meet your gums. That's the spot. And all of these spots, of course, correlate with different meridians in Chinese medicine, different marma points within Ayurveda. And then on the chin, it's right at the crease of the chin. And that tends to be the spot where the lower teeth meet the gums. So this first time through, I'm giving lots of details so you can find the landmarks. And then now the collarbone. So you want to feel where your collarbones are, and it's a little bit below that, and then slightly out, kind of angled toward your armpit. So not right underneath, but slightly angled out. And really, especially this spot, if you're using multiple fingers, you're likely to get right where you need to. So don't be too worried about that. Just tap, trust the process. And then the final spot in the circuit is you take 4 finger widths from your armpit down and you tap there. So this one might feel a little bit awkward. It might also be a little sensitive. And now that we know the landmarks, we'll tap through a few more times. So starting at the crown of the head, eyes can be open or closed, just breathing. Then the inner part of your eyebrow, right on the hair. On the bones of the outer eyes. Right at the center underneath the pupil. Upper lip. Chin. Collarbones. And then under the arm. Top of the head. Notice how you're feeling. Inner part of the brows. Outer eyes. Under the eyes. Upper lip. Chin. Collarbones. Under the arm. We'll go through the circuit one more time. Top of the head. Inner brow. Outer corners of the eyes. Underneath the pupil. Upper lip. Chin. Collarbones. Then under the arm. And then we'll end in that place where we started at the side of the hand. And if you'd like, again, this is optional, you can assign a number from 0 to 10 on what you would rate your stress in this moment. Sometimes we see a shift, sometimes we don't. You could continue tapping if you wanted to. Otherwise, hopefully, some of the other things we'll do in class will help that number lower a little bit as well. So feel free to keep tapping another minute or two if you'd like, but otherwise, when you feel complete, we'll rest our hands on our lap. And then just notice how you feel, not only maybe in the tips of your fingers, not only maybe in your mood, but maybe you feel energy in all of the little spots that we tapped. Then we'll come on down to the floor. So if you were in a chair, it'd be good if you came down to the floor. Although if you need to stay in a chair the whole time, that's perfectly fine too. You can absolutely um, do this in a chair, even in your bed, actually. So we'll take our legs out to the side, mainly just to stretch the legs, and then we'll do some things for the upper body. So I'm just going to scooch these out of the way a little. And we'll interlace our fingers and do a figure eight here at the wrists. Sitting up nice and tall, your legs are relaxed, your feet are relaxed. And then we'll do a figure eight the other way. And stretch your palms forward. Breathe. And then if you'd like, you can take your arms overhead any amount. And then one hand comes down as you side bend. And then you'll side bend the other way. And then just go a little bit side to side at your own pace. Some of you may like to linger on one side and breathe. Some of you might like to flow with your breath. And a nice little hello to your side body here. And just notice that when our legs are out like this, to me at least, it feels a little bit like I've expanded my root system a little bit. I feel a little bit more connected to the earth. And then no rush, but when you're ready, we'll come back to the center. You can keep those legs extended, sitting up nice and tall, and then we'll turn to your right. So turning to your right, looking over your right shoulder, just a very subtle twist. And then from the neck down, think about staying in the twist, but just turn your head so your gaze is to your left toe. You feel a nice little stretch in your neck area. And then see if you can synchronize your head and the rest of your spine to come to the center and face forward at about the same time. Beautiful. Let's do the other side. So turning to your left, looking over your left shoulder. And then just the gaze, turn and look at your right big toe. And then with intention, your head faces forward, your heart faces forward, and we'll pause. All right, so our first yin pose will be a dragonfly with a forward fold. So your legs will stay the same. I'm seated on a blanket because I like that support underneath me, so you may like that as well. And you'll use whatever it is that you have available to you. I love throw pillows, I love bolsters, anything that you have. You can even use furniture, but we'll come forward. So you may notice that, gee, I want to be up a little bit higher today. And you may have your bolster or your props on their end. Or maybe I want to have it on its side and come in this way. You could even stack your props or use a little coffee table. So the idea is that you're feeling a mild stretch in the legs, probably the inner part of the legs, maybe the hamstrings, a mild stretch in your lower back, but you feel comfortable. So remember, since we just practice um, live about once a month, I just want to remind you that the potency, the power of yin isn't in how deep you come straight out of the gate. It's that we're marinating in the pose. So you can do less because we're staying longer. When and if you notice any discomfort in your lower back, then that might be a sign to sit up a little taller and maybe turn your prop up higher. Breathe into the roots of your legs. Feel the contact points of your legs and the floor. Another thing that we can do that's very anchoring for the fall season is to accentuate our exhales. That might be simply through your awareness. It might be that they're a little bit longer. Your exhale might even turn into a sigh. It might even be a sigh out of your mouth. So, a lot of places this time of year in the fall, the weather is dry, a little bit windy. And so, our yoga practice can be sort of the opposite of that to create balance. So, we want to have a warming practice, a still practice to counter all the wind, a more nourishing practice for the joints. We have about 3 more cycles of your breath here. And then nice and slowly, we'll start to come up and out of our dragonfly. And we'll find ourselves in an all fours position. So the all fours position is just a transition. We won't be in our knees too much. But if you needed to pad your knees with a blanket, please do. Otherwise, you always have options. And so for this transition, you might want cat cow. You might want a child's pose. You might want a downward dog. So take about 5 breaths to see what it is that sounds good to you. And then there's no rush at all, but just so you know where we're going next, we'll be on our bellies for Sphinx. So we'll come on down to the floor. I'll show a couple of options for this. Your legs are about hip width apart, but they can certainly be more or less depending on what feels good to you. Elbows just about underneath the shoulders. And then experiment. Do you like your palms facing each other or do you like your palms facing down? That's one way that you can be in this pose. The other way, which maybe feels good if you've been on your computer all day or at a desk, it's called crocodile. So your forearms go a little more forward. This is a more subtle variation. Your opposite hand to opposite elbow, and then you rest your forehead on your forearms. So they're both variations of a back bend. One of them is just more subtle, more earthy. So choose what's best for you. And just really notice all of the contact points between your body and the floor. A nice, quiet breath. A nice relaxed jaw, relaxed forehead. If you notice any tension in the face, soften the face and the jaw. Maybe think about softening all of the places where we tapped earlier. And we have about 3 more cycles of your breath. And after your third cycle of breath, we'll lower down, stack our hands, make a pillow for the head. You could have your head turned one way or the other. You could have your forehead on your hand, whatever's best. Coming into fallen tree. So the right knee will bend out to the side, just about level with the hip. And it could be like a fallen tree if you have your right foot angled in toward your body. It's a lot like tree pose. But you could also choose to have your foot angled out a little bit so it feels almost like a half frog. It's completely up to you which version. I just like to call it fallen tree, especially in the fall, because I think of the beautiful leaves that are starting to change. And again, your head position is based on what's comfortable. And even though we did the tapping practice, it's mainly to the face and the upper body. Just know that there are marma points and acupressure points head to toe on your body. And that actually, some of the benefit of this pose is from the pressure points on the knee, around the hip, around the belly. And some of those are places that help regulate digestion. All right, and then we'll do the other side. So the right leg is long, you'll bend the left knee, and remember you're angling the left foot in, more like tree, or maybe it's out, more like half frog. Last breath or two. Then we'll lengthen both legs behind you. Take your time. We will simply flip ourselves over onto our back. So take your time transitioning. You'll want to have a couple of blocks within your arm's reach, so maybe you're grabbing those along the way as well. But we'll come onto our backs, pause in Shavasana. Now really focus on the contact points between your body and the floor. So we'll be doing a reclined butterfly. In different weeks, we do different reclined butterflies for various reasons. If you have a favorite way to do reclined butterfly, then I invite you to do that. Otherwise, since we are looking for as much earth connection as possible, my recommendation, if you don't think otherwise, would be for you to do your reclined butterfly directly on the earth. So this way I have more contact points between my body and the floor. But if your favorite variation is to use bolsters or other props, then absolutely by all means do that. Other things you might want to think about is covering yourself with a blanket. And that's not only just for temperature control, but blankets can also be really nice for almost like a weighted blanket effect. You might even want a little cushion for the back of your head. And as this class is a blend of yin and restorative, you could choose to use very few props and focus more on the stretch, which would make it more yin. Or you could use lots of props, lots of support, and make it more restorative. So you get to choose what you need. We'll be here about 5 minutes. Just really notice the quality of stillness. This may be the first and only time in your day thus far where you've had the opportunity to be still. Sometimes I like to have my hands resting on my torso so I can feel the wave like quality of my breath. We have about another minute. And as we breathe, just take a moment to appreciate the change of seasons. Even if you live in a place that the shift is very subtle, there's still a shift. Maybe you notice the behavior of animals is a little bit different, like the squirrels and the birds. For me, I've noticed the hummingbirds have left, and now I'm getting more winter birds coming back, like the nuthatch and all the different kinds of woodpeckers. And very slowly, when you're ready, we'll bring our knees toward the middle and take our feet wide. So you can either come on down to the floor if you're not already there, or you can do that in a moment. But the next couple of things that we'll do will be directly on the floor. So we'll pause here with our knees together, feet wide. Then a very subtle windshield wiper side to side. And yin, we want to move slowly. And then we'll start to shimmy the feet toward the center and hug your right knee into your chest. So as I hug my right knee in, I could keep my left knee bent or I could lengthen the left leg, whatever's best. But let's move a little bit through our right ankle just to nourish that joint. Get the fluid to the joint of the ankle, even maybe move through your toes. And then we'll switch sides. So now you're hugging the left knee in, your right leg could be straight or bent. And then move through your left ankle and foot in a way with the intention of nourishing the joints of your foot. And we'll lengthen both feet, both legs, pause in Shavasana for a moment. Coming into Banana Asana. So I keep both of my hips, both of my shoulders on the floor. So in a lot of ways, it's a Shavasana that's just curved. So we'll walk our legs over to the right side, curve your upper body to the right. So you look like half of a parentheses. And then that's the pose. So you could keep your legs side by side, or you could experiment with crossing one of the ankles on top or the other. You could rest your arms on your body. You could take your arms overhead. Nice, relaxed breath. Feeling the contact points between your body and the floor. All of those contact points, little opportunities to connect with the earth. One more cycle of your breath, and then we'll return to center. And think for a moment, what does that mean to you to return to your center? We might mean that physically with the body, we might mean that emotionally or mentally. And then we'll take that same shape, this time over to the left. So your legs walk over to the left, your upper body curves to the left. You can keep those legs side by side or stack an ankle on top. Maybe arms are overhead or resting on your torso. And even though it's the same pose on this side, you might feel slightly different contact points between your body and the floor. Maybe a different hip has more pressure or a different heel of the foot. About 5 more cycles of your breath. And we'll start to realign, readjust back to our center. And we'll take our time, moving very slowly to set up for an inversion. So, since we're all practicing at home, we all have different setups, different combinations of props. I kind of like to leave it open ended what it might be that you do. For example, a legs up the wall is a really nice choice if you have that available. I know some of you like to put your legs on the couch, just like rest your calves on the couch. You could put them up on a little end table, a chair. You could also do what I'm going to do today, which is stack a couple of props. So again, it could be anything that you have around the house. I happen to have two bolsters, but just any kind of a positioning where you can elevate your legs to the degree that feels good to you. So it doesn't have to be high to be effective. Any amount is great. Elevating the legs, resting your body on the earth. And what typically happens in an inversion like this with the legs is that it brings more of a contact point sort of emphasis to our pelvis, which can be very anchoring in the fall. You can add to that anchoring quality with maybe a blanket over the pelvis. You might like a little blanket or pillow under your head. And if you notice that you feel chilly, you can always add a sweater or a hoodie or some socks. With your legs elevated, you might also feel more of your spine in contact with the earth. So for your last 8 breaths here, let's breathe nice and intentionally. One method of mindfulness here is counting down your breaths from 8 to 0, and then just mentally you say to yourself, inhale 8, exhale 8, and continue with that until you get to 0. When you do reach 0, that will be your signal that it's time to set yourself up for final relaxation. And final relaxation could be anything at all that feels supported, relaxing for you. So, being that you're at home, it could be that you want to snuggle in your bed or get up in your couch or find some covers. Any position at all where you feel supported and comfortable is welcome. If you notice that you're chilly, especially in this fall transition, you want to make sure that you feel warm. So, socks can be really lovely this time of year. And setting yourself up not only intentionally, but also just really lovingly. Giving yourself this gift of stillness. into the coppery halls of beech and intricate oak, to be close to the trees as they whisper together, let fall their leaves and prepare for the winter. It's a poem by Catherine Towers called Whim Wood, and I'll read it one more time. Into the coppery halls of beech and intricate oak, to be close to the trees as they whisper together, let fall their leaves and prepare for the winter. So, feeling free to stay as you are. There's no need to move if you don't want to. And those that would like can start to deepen their breath. And if you'd like to stay snuggled in where you are, then wonderful. But if you want to start to add movement into your body, then you can do that. Some of you may want to come to an upright seated position. Some of you may prefer to stay reclined. The position of the body doesn't matter, but the position of the heart and the head does. So, where is your heart in this moment? Where is your head in this moment? Are you here? Are you already somewhere else? You can keep your hands wherever they are, or you can bring them together into prayer. And I thank you for your practice of yoga.